Welcome back to a brand new season of TVGP's Critical Misses. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Moonpier.
Hi.
We're going to be talking about Deadpool, our favorite Merc with a mouth. Three out of three movies.
We got some unpacking to do here, Boston.
Yeah, because I maybe famously don't like Deadpool. So let's I guess, as you said, unpack this here. I haven't seen any of these movies.
I have. We might as well establish those rules off the top.
At time of recording, insert date here, Deadpool and Wolverine is currently in theaters. So thought, hey, it's a great time to get caught up on this stuff. Have you seen both of the first two movies?
I've seen all three movies.
Aha. Fantastic.
I would have liked to have saved it for the show, but unfortunately, I'm in a household that could not abide not seeing Deadpool and Wolverine in the theaters.
Well, and
so
nowadays you never really know when a movie is going to be in theaters for a week or for 17 months.
6 months. Yeah, exactly.
You never really know. So.
And also, it's one of those things as well that, I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory that I made up in my head.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure they start to edit bits out after a certain amount of time.
Oh, like when a movie's in the theater?
Yes, because I distinctly remember going to see several movies multiple times because I was a kid and that's what we did because the internet was the internet and it wasn't as big as it is now.
Right.
And seeing it day 1, week 2, week 3, and by week 5 or 6, it was wait, there's a bit in here that I have seen several times and now it's no longer here. And I don't know if that's just me being crazy and stupid.
Well, I mean, they definitely patch movies now, which is a terrible turn of phrase. I wonder how much of that when we were growing up is just hey man, someone was smoking in the projection room and we totally burned a whole bunch of this movie and just cut it off and we'll keep moving on.
It's also that, but also it's capitalism, so it wouldn't be surprising to see, hey, you trim 10 minutes out of this.
That's right. Get those.
You get an extra showing every day.
That's right.
So
turn and burn.
Why
man.
not? Let's do that instead.
Right.
Right. So again, I'm not sure if that's just me. If anybody who actually has worked in the theater knows of that kind of thing, feel free to at me. I'm very curious.
Right. We'll keep
but that's just something I've always believed.
Yeah.
Is later showings tend to be shorter for cutting out reasons. It might have even been a Fast and the Furious movie, to be completely honest. Might be the thing that I'm thinking of.
Sure.
Or one of the Lord of the Rings movies, which I famously saw 8 times in theaters, every single one of them.
Right.
Anyway. Deadpool.
Let me go Deadpool.
Let me go first here because I will have the least to say, but also the funniest thing is I am in comic book Deadpool. Not talking about the movies, not talking about anything to do with that. Deadpool as a character, his conception and idea always tickled me as a very good idea for a comic book character.
Okay.
Someone who is aware that they're a comic book character is fantastic.
Right.
Just like I think early stages of The Punisher, having someone who was undoubtedly a villain being the hero is a very interesting concept. That's why I have strayed towards The Punisher as well. Judge Dredd is another great example of someone who's arguably the bad guy being the hero.
Right.
And these are this. They're not Captain America heroes.
Right.
Are the ones that intrigue me. Iron Man was the same. It's he's a hero, but he's got a drinking problem. He's a womanizer. He's got all of these issues. The concept behind Deadpool I always have enjoyed and thought is a very unique individual way of looking at a comic book character. I think that's great.
Sure.
I have never sat down and read any Deadpool back-to-back trade paperbacks or any of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I see frames every now and again.
You're picking stuff up here and there.
Yeah, I see frames or individual things, or he shows up in, a group meetup or whatever and references Spider-Man for whatever reason. I know he's got a thing with Spider-Man. You don't have to tell me. I'm aware of Deadpool. But I never really got into him as that kind of character. My huge introduction to him was this movie.
Okay. Did you play the 360 game?
I did not.
Okay.
I know I should have, because I know we on the show here loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I never played that game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Part of the reason why... Let me back up. I've seen some Deadpool stuff. I've read some Deadpool comics, and to me, and like, don't ask me to name, like, oh, I read Deadpool number 33. And I don't know, man. It's been forever. But to me, I got the whole shtick behind Deadpool, but it never really clicked with me. Like, I don't like comics that are overly serious largely. Probably like once a decade, I'll get pulled into an X-Men series. I'll read like 20, 30 comics, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, cool, now it's getting dumb. Let's keep moving on. It's always like, oh, the X-Men are fighting an island again. I'm tapping out of this one. But Deadpool, to me, swung too far to the other end of the spectrum of like, there's too much wackiness. There's too much fourth wall breaking. There's too much like meta commentary that maybe if I was deeper into comics, then maybe I would appreciate a lot of the like piss takes on comics or characters or whatever overall. But
yes,
I feel like I was deep enough to read Deadpool stuff, but maybe not deep enough to kind of get all of the references.
Okay, so he was doing the deepest of cuts, and
right.
It was slightly annoying that he was making a joke that the majority of the audience, arguably, is not going to understand because they're not that deep into everything.
Listeners might want to check out our 3rd episode of this season for something similar to that. Yeah, very much of like, I was part of the audience that maybe didn't get it. Also see the reviews of Deadpool and Wolverine. And it's like how much of your enjoyment of this thing hinges on you, quote unquote, getting it. And I'm sure a lot of people out there would be like, oh, well, you read the wrong Deadpool. You should have read X, Y, and Z. Oh, you ran into this character. That's only funny because it's a clone of a clone of a clone. Like, that's comic books. But like, I never really read that one thing or that one issue or that one storyline or whatever that really clicked with me. So when the movies came out, I was like, great, I love Ryan Reynolds in, I think, everything I've seen him in. And I'm glad that he gets a second chance to play the character that is so close to his heart. Because X-Men Origins Wolverine was like even I know it's a garbage like version of Deadpool. Like, he doesn't even have a mouth. That's 95% of that character is this character talking crap to literally everybody, including himself, including you, the watcher / reader. But when it came out, I was happy to hear that so many people were really happy that it was a considerably faithful Deadpool movie. But to me, that was my notice.
That was your no.
Yeah, it's not. People of the internet, listen, it's not for me, and that's okay. So I didn't go watch it and then come home and be like, meh, it was as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. It's just like, no, man, I'm just not going to go. I'll watch Hot Fuzz again.
Yeah, that's always a good choice.
Yeah.
But not Baby Driver.
Well, Baby Driver now, but not, not at the time. But in the interest of broadening our horizons as part of the kind of core ethos here of Critical Misses, I thought, why not take this time to kind of rip the Band-Aid off after you suggested, like, hey, man, this movie's coming out. Why don't we watch all 3 of them? It's like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe now's the time.
To be honest, we like the edict of the show is critical misses, whether you end up liking it or not.
Right.
Deadpool the movie spawned a franchise,
Right.
an unlikely franchise, to be completely honest.
Oh boy. Sorry, my face there and the oh boy was looking at the budget here: $58 million, box office $782 million. So, talk about a critical miss for me. This is definitely one of them.
I mean, it's also one of those things where, like you said, like Ryan Reynolds is a huge fan of Deadpool. He always has been. He's the one who put himself forward so hard to play Deadpool in that original horrible movie.
Right.
And then the genesis of this movie always tickles me because I feel like we have to talk about this because he did test footage with Fox Studios where he was like, here is a sequence, we're just going to do test footage of it. It's going to be rough CGI. It's not going to be prim and proper or anything. Like it's just going to be like a little test sequence.
It's a little pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he did that, and then they saw it and decided to not go ahead with the movie.
Oh, okay.
And then several years later, someone, wink, who Ryan Reynolds does not know, wink, at all, wink, who works at the studio, wink.
Brian Reynolds tripped and fell and leaked this footage.
He is adamant he did not do it. He didn't have access to it at the time, apparently. So someone from the studio leaked it.
Plausible deniability. Smart.
100%. The fact that you don't have a copy of this on your hard drive is a lie to me.
For sure.
But someone leaked it. And it immediately, as what happens with leaks things, it hits YouTube. Someone mentions that it got leaked. Fox does a CMA, whatever that strike is, a DMCA strike, gets it taken down. The problem is it's touched the internet. And the second something touches the internet, it's everywhere.
The clip Fox doesn't want you to see. Secret canceled Deadpool movie. And then it catches like wildfire.
Exactly. And then it's on Twitter, it's on socials, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube on 7 different accounts all at the same time. And it gets a buzz. It gets a genuine, legitimate buzz.
I do remember that happening. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Fox is like, oh, well, fine. We'll do the movie.
Fine, you pulled our arm here.
And you said yourself, what was that budget again?
$50 million, which nowadays for a superhero movie is basically $20 and a dream. Like, it's nothing.
This came out in 2016.
Right.
Okay? So Fox was like, fine, we've got the rights, we've got the franchise, fine. Here is a small check.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Don't spend it all in one place. Go make your funny little Deadpool movie.
Right. Go make your little red guy movie, whatever. Don't bother us.
Other movies that came out in 2016. Rogue One.
Wow. Okay.
$265 million budget.
I like that. I like that movie a lot. I just want to say again, I like Rogue One a lot.
Rogue One is a great movie.
Yeah.
Captain America: Civil War.
Another hot banger of a movie.
$250 million budget. Finding Dory, $200 million budget.
Gosh.
Like, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Approximately $250 to $325 million budget.
Woof.
This is a who's who of superhero movies at the time. Civil War is still a fantastic movie, so by the way, everybody.
Well, and like of all those movies you list out, like it's the first big Star Wars spin-off movie. It's one of the best MCU movies. It's a big Disney DCU. Pixar sequel to one of the most beloved Pixar movies. Like, these aren't just
that's not small.
Yeah, and it's not like, we don't have any big superhero movies this year. It's not like the year Eternals came out, everyone was like, no thank you. It's like there are other huge movies that are very similar to this one.
Yeah, and domestically, this movie outgrossed Zootopia, Batman versus Superman.
Wow.
Not difficult for the next one, but Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it's not,
And Sing.
Wow. Okay.
Like, that is the fact that. Also, let's talk about this. The fact that it is an R-rated movie.
True.
And it is doing these kinds of numbers is frankly unbelievable, because R-rated movies don't do well. They never have done well because the audience is different. You can't take your kids to see an R-rated movie. That's why
don't take your kids to see Deadpool.
Please don't. No. When I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, there was like a 12-year-old sitting 2 seats down from me with their parent. Yeah. I was very disappointed.
But like, there are almost no R-rated superhero movies either, because that's just like you said, that's just not the market.
We saw it with Venom. Like, we saw it with, everyone was like, "Why isn't Venom R-rated? Venom should be R-rated instead." It's
and the
PG-13.
studio goes, "Well," it's like, okay,
but the worst part of it for those movies, because we've seen at least the first one, is you can see the R-rated sections. You're like, "Oh, he's about to eat all of their heads. This is the R-rated section."
Cut.
And it cuts away.
Right.
Like, you could see where it's there.
Right. Special features and outtakes on the DVD are uncensored and unrated.
Yeah. A director's thing.
That's right.
Is one of those things.
Right.
But like, R-rated movies don't do well. They just don't. We have a DC film, which is a very high-grossing R-rated movie in our list somewhere. Okay. Boston.
Yes.
What are the highest-grossing R-rated movies of all time?
I'm not going to know
worldwide
any of these.
You are, shockingly enough.
Number
one is a DC movie, and it's the least DC movie that you want to be number one.
Number one is a DC movie?
Uh-huh.
The first Suicide Squad movie?
Nope, that was like 240 million. I'm sorry, that's domestic for 240.
DC movie.
More depressing than that, and more approaching today's astronomically bad society standards.
I'm drawing a total blank, and I feel like this is going to piss me off when you say the movie's name.
The sequel is coming out this year.
I don't know. Oh my god, why am I drawing a blank? What is it?
If I was to put a smile on your face, would that give you any indication?
Joker? No.
Is the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time.
No. I mean, I get it because a lot of edgelords,
went to see it 17 times.
Went to go see it thinking that it was something. No.
It was not literally he's the villain. He's not you. You are the bad guy. Get this through your head.
Oh Lord. Okay. Yeah. Yep,
That's number one.
Sure.
Number two is a movie about a big bomb. Very recent.
A big bomb?
The big bomb, one might say.
Oh, Oppenheimer?
That's number two.
Okay.
Didn't even know that was R-rated.
Yeah, I guess I didn't either, but okay.
We'll do 3, 4, or 5, and then I'll just throw out some notable other ones.
Okay.
Number 3 is still in the theaters. It's associated with this series that we're doing.
I was going to say,
this
is
very
it Deadpool
second.
and Wolverine?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 4 is Deadpool 2.
Okay.
Number 5 is Deadpool.
Okay. All right.
And
so
then,
Deadpool doing pretty well for himself.
Yes. And from there, like, Matrix Reloaded is like number 6. Didn't know that was R-rated. 50 Shades of Grey is number 12.
Oh, I guess that's lower than I would have thought.
Hangover is 25.
25. That's super. Well, that did really well on DVD.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the Scott Pilgrim effect, where a lot of
exactly.
people love that much more afterwards. Kingsman is number 40, which good job Kingsman for making this list. But that's like, you're not looking at like high six figures. Like, number 16 is The Revenant with 532 million global. Like, it's not huge numbers. Like,
no, it's not like
correction.
this.
It's huge numbers,
Right?
but it's not huge numbers like the new Marvel film comes out and makes
Right.
literally $1 billion.
Or like the second Avatar movie has made like $300 bajillion in its first week. Like it's just a different scale. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like R-rated movies just don't go that high.
Right.
They just don't.
Right.
And like one might argue that like this movie is kind of like, hey, we can make R-rated movies and make money. Because like before this, it was The Matrix 3. So it was like 2003, 2004, 2001, 1991. Like there is.
Right.
And then all of a sudden after this movie, it's like, oh, 2019, 23, 24, 27, 2017, I should say, 21. Like there's a lot of people who are like, maybe now's the time that we can start making money with R-rated movies.
Right. Right.
Dude, Avatar 2 was $2.32 billion in gross, by the way.
That's so much money. Oh my
God.
I
don't understand the Avatar thing, but I'm sure we'll cover that for a season at some point.
We'll have an Avatar shrugging our shoulders. Hey man, I don't get it season. So
yeah, pretty much.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, it's an R-rated movie. Yeah. It's a comic book hero that arguably is one of the lesser known ones. I think, ironically enough, I think the funny thing about Deadpool is the critical misses of comic book heroes. Everybody knows about Deadpool, but nobody's read Deadpool.
It's kind of similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like, yeah, I've heard that because they have that talking raccoon that flies around, but you're making a movie out of that? Like, I think Deadpool, when you see it and you see Ryan Reynolds attached to it, you're like, yeah, okay, I kind of get that. Like, you can at least see the pieces coming together. I think maybe a little bit more than some of the other kind of MCU movies, the like second tier MCU movies.
Yeah, and I think one of the strengths of this movie, and I think the second one too, I think one of the biggest strengths of both of these movies is they were given a pittance to make these movies with.
Right.
Like they were not given a blank check and said, hey, here's a blank check, go knock yourself out kind of thing. They were given a tiny amount of money and basically told, yeah, go do what you need to do.
Basically told, I hope you don't need a lot of CG. Good luck.
Yeah, and obviously that joke will come into it at some point. Because it is a Deadpool movie. But I think part of the charm of that is they don't have huge names.
Yeah.
They don't have huge stars. The biggest name in any of these movies is Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
And I get a sneaking suspicion. Yeah, at least until the third one.
Yeah.
And I get a sneaking suspicion that he probably didn't get paid what he was going for at the time, because he probably was more like, hey, I get to make a Deadpool movie. You can pay me in cheeseburgers and hot dogs, and I'll be happy.
Right. Like, this is my dream project, so pay the staff in the crew.
Yes.
Instead of me getting, $30 million or whatever. Yeah.
So, Boston, what do you think the plot of the movie is going to be now that we've unpacked our way out?
God. Does he fight a planet? Does he fight a tiny dog? Is there any fighting? Is it a musical? Like, I have no idea.
You are aware of the commercials for this as well. Like, how Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool have this amazing ability to just do the completely off-the-wall commercials for their stuff.
I haven't seen that.
Like, okay, so Deadpool 1 was hilarious because it had, I think it was a Celine Dion track.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
A ballet dancer dressed in the Deadpool costume doing a performance to Celine Dion on a stage in a big auditorium.
Okay.
And when they did that, whatever the movie is with the dancer who leans back and gets hit by a bunch of water.
Yeah.
That's a critical miss I haven't seen. What is that movie called? I don't even know.
Flashdance?
Yes, that's the one. That, except instead of water coming down and hitting this ballet dancer in the Deadpool outfit, it's bullet casings came down and hit this person.
Okay, I have seen that one. Okay.
Like, they do insane stuff with
Mm-hmm.
like the commercials.
They go
And
all the way for it.
yeah, and that is the funny thing is I think that is where they actually break the fourth wall more than anywhere else.
Oh, okay.
They do it in the commercials rather than in the actual movie itself. They still break the fourth wall, but the commercials are where it's really
Right.
prominent.
Right.
The Andre the Giant movie, everybody loves it. My name is Diego Montoya. You've killed my father.
Yeah, Princess Bride.
Yes, they did a commercial for 2, which was Deadpool reading Princess Bride to the kid from Princess Bride as a grown-up kid, sitting in the same bed,
right,
in the same everything.
Right.
And it was just like, okay, this is cool. I get
Right.
it. You're doing a very referential thing. I get it. But you don't know a thing about this movie.
I've no idea. Because I've tried to avoid so much of it that, like, I haven't even absorbed anything via osmosis.
Would it surprise you to learn that maybe the first Deadpool movie is an origin story?
You know what? I wouldn't be that surprised.
Because the first Deadpool movie is an origin story.
Okay. I think if there's one movie that needs to have an origin story for a hero, it's probably Deadpool, of just, hey, here's what happened to this dude, and here's why he looks the way that he does. Is he going to take his mask off at some point, and somebody's going to go, oh God, what happened to you? And you go, funny story. Here it is.
Yes. So the hilarious part, I'm assuming you've seen a picture of him without his makeup on, without his mask on, and how he looks. I did see somebody post on Twitter with a picture of like Ryan Reynolds normal, and then Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool without the mask on, so his face in that. And someone was like, "Good God, what happened to Ryan Reynolds?" And this was on Twitter,
right?
And he literally responded with the one word, and the one word was children. So like, again,
pretty good.
Credit to the dude for maintaining his character and also being himself throughout.
Right.
I don't know. I'm glad for Ryan Reynolds. I know he doesn't need me to be happy for him. He doesn't need me to be appreciative of this.
You know, it's still like Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Now, don't come out as a wrong-in now that we just said that.
Yes, please. Now that we're doing this season with the two nice guys, please don't do that.
That's right.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to this because it's been a while since I've seen the first Deadpool, and after seeing 3, I gave my rankings to the crowd we saw it with.
Sure.
And I'm curious now if those hold up.
Gotcha. All right, well, with that note, let's go watch the film.
Yep.
We're back. We have returned.
From outer space.
That's right. We have finished watching the movie. Self-reference the movie. We've completed it. We've done it.
You are the angel of my morning, Boston.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I don't know where to start with this movie.
Okay. Let's start. Was it as bad as you expected it to be?
So, the tough part about this movie is it's kind of 2 movies at once. And I think all of it is really well made. Like, I think direction-wise, writing-wise, the action is really solid.
I was shocked about how readable the action is in this movie.
Right.
I was like, especially, I mean, this is what, 2016? This is Avengers time. This is the height of CG nightmare fuel, where sometimes it becomes difficult to follow stuff.
Yeah, when did Fast & Furious come out? You know, we're fully in that. And like, so much of it is good, and I think my feelings about Deadpool aside, I think this is a good movie. You know, I think you can go into it, and it is an interesting story from end to end, told in an interesting, sort of
time jumpy way.
Yeah, flowing direction. Like I think that's interesting. I think if you interject my feelings about Deadpool into this, I think this is largely a 2/3 of a good movie.
Okay, so I did notice something here while watching it this time. He is a lot less fourth wall breaky than I expected it or remembered him being.
I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah,
he's a lot more self-aware than I expected him to be. These are the two things which can get conflated with one another.
Right, they're very different.
And he is so aware of who he is and what he is,
right,
and what he's in. But he very rarely actually breaks the fourth wall.
There's one moment that I actually really like when he breaks the fourth wall and he looks directly at the camera when he's gearing up to go attack Francis, and he has like all the guns and the bullets and the magazines and everything, and someone says, you've got about 3,000 rounds there, and he looks straight at the camera and says, "We all know what I can do with 12 rounds." I was like,
which is a really good joke.
Like, you save it for that, and you don't use it every scene where he's like, winking and nudging the camera, being like, "Huh? You see that joke?" Like, it's. I think I felt better about Deadpool in this movie than I was expecting to, because they kept that stuff to a minimum, and they focused more on.
Is it right at the top? He says it's a love story, and it 1000% is a love story.
Well, and I think the strength of casting Ryan Reynolds as this character is he can't stop talking. Like, you get the impression that maybe that's also who Ryan Reynolds is as a person. So, like, it's just this constant, like they're a 5-year-old kind of like, I need to keep, there's a million thoughts and blah 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 blah. Like, they all have to come out all at the same time. And I think this movie does do that really well overall. I think the only time where that stuff falls down is the stuff that frustrates me about modern-ish comedy movies, which is, there's one scene where they're making fun of Deadpool's look when he escapes from the quote-unquote lab.
Yes.
And they have like 7 ad-lib improv descriptions about what he looks like when you needed 2. Like, that stuff is so frustrating, because it's like, I know you had 50 of these and you pared it down to 7.
There is an outtake that shows them just going backwards and forwards,
right,
getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse as it goes. And they're all funny, but you're not wrong. You need like 4.
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah. So like, I think this movie is really interesting, and I think, like you said at the beginning of the movie, it is a love story, and I think even though the movie seems to be like an almost revenge tale at points, where Deadpool is trying to get to Francis to have him fix his face, it's really because he doesn't want to be ugly for Vanessa. Right. Yeah. Which is... Also, I can't believe they got her to play Vanessa.
She's so good, dude.
She's so good in everything. And her just popping up in this movie.
Maria Baccarin, yes.
Yeah, just to like have her popping. Hey, do you remember me in Firefly? I'm in this too.
Do you know who she's dating, by the way? Or I think she might be married at this point, too?
No.
Ryan Atwood from The OC.
Great. Incredible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Let's talk about the rest of the cast here. Ed Skrein, he's the bad guy. Ajax / Francis. He's a good British villain.
He is. And okay, we have to talk about the credits first. The opening credits, where it's written by some douche, starring a hot girl, a British villain.
Yeah.
Made by people who don't deserve this credit.
Right. That
written
was
by the
pretty.
real heroes here.
I think that was pretty good. I also like the kind of playing with time nature of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not only does it kind of suit Deadpool as a character, it's this like golden retriever getting distracted sort of thing, like
That is a very good description.
where he's
Yeah.
just like, oh, whoa, wait, I forgot to tell you about this. Anyways, 15 years earlier, it's like, oh my, wait, what? And it's like, okay,
Wait,
anyways,
my boyfriend told me this was a superhero movie, but that he just turned that guy into a kebab.
that was actually pretty good. But then it's just like, oh right, the car crash, and then it just like zooms forward, and it's like, all right. Anyways, remember from the intro when we were like flipping upside down? Here's what happened. So I kind of liked the kind of slow drag through this car and all these different people, the position that everybody's in for these credits, and I feel like it took me maybe like 2 or 3 credits to realize that they're not actual people, because I'm not paying attention to them because they're just credits. I know Ryan Reynolds is in this.
Yes.
And to be like God's most lovable something, I don't remember what. And I was just like, wait, what? I was like, oh, yeah, right, Deadpool movie. Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah. Francis / Ajax.
Yeah.
We were on.
I thought,
He's fine.
yeah, he's your kind of stereotypical British villain of just like,
Yes.
oh, you think we're helping you. Jolly chap. It's like, wait, no, you don't have to go that far.
I do love the counterplay between him and Deadpool, though, on the "What's my name" thing.
Yep.
And one of the best deliveries of that whole thing is the final sequence when Deadpool, he shouts down from the top of the, don't know if you noticed this, it's a helicarrier.
Yes.
Totally not allowed to do that at the time, but it's 100% a helicarrier.
Yep.
But he shouts down from the top of it, "What's my name?" And Deadpool responds, "Oh, I'm gonna F and spell it out for you."
Yep.
And then 2 combat sequences later, he literally spells it out for him.
Yeah, we do also have T.J. Miller in the first of 2 canceled Hollywood stars here. He plays T.J. Miller. That dude always plays that same character, which seems to just be him in all of these movies. It's fine. That character is written exactly how it needs to be and played just fine. It's whatever. Scene with Gina Carano, I don't care.
Carano is the one I've had most frequently.
Okay, she sucks anyways.
The second of the cancelled stars.
Yeah, she is there to be big and punch people through walls. And
yeah, and to be a fighter, which is what she did for a career before she retired.
Right. So that's fine. I really enjoyed Brianna Hildebrand, who I had to
Let's
look up
talk
the name.
about the breakout star of this entire movie.
I love Negasonic Teenage Warhead to begin with, and also I love Monster Magnet. Just throwing it out there, go listen to that album. But man, she's great as this character. Like, just 100% nails what this character needs to be, which is like, yeah, I'm just here with a bunch of old dudes.
Teen. She is literally the teen in this movie.
I'm dealing with Deadpool, who sucks, and I'm dealing with this 7.5 foot tall metal dude who also sucks. Can I just use my powers now? Oh, this is annoying. She's great. She's really, really cool.
I love the counterplay between. Again, it's how Deadpool interacts with everybody is so unique to their individual characters, and the way he just constantly references really old stuff,
right,
with the way she looks. Like the first time he sees her, he refers to her as Sinead O'Connor,
right,
which is just like,
she's just like,
don't know, what? You don't know,
right,
and that's fine. But the fact that like later in the movie when she opens the door to the X Mansion, which we'll get to, and he's like, "Oh hey, it's Ellen Ripley from Alien 3." I was like, "Hey, it's a reference Boston's gonna get."
That's right. Now. I got both of those. I also do really like that Deadpool genuinely likes her and thinks her name is really cool. Like, it's one of the few things that he is really tickled by after he like did the Deadpool transformation. And I'm really tickled by him being so happy that this teenage kid is just the coolest, and then she uses her powers, and he's like, "That's amazing. You're the coolest. This is great."
I like the fact that she's got attitude from the very get-go, because you see her and Colossus right at the beginning of the movie when the highway scene is reported on the news, and she's like, "Oh, what's the benefits?
Right.
You know, the yellow spandex, or is it the house that gets blown up every 3 years or so?"
Right.
And Colossus's response is, "House blown up is good, builds character,"
right.
and then gives her a protein bar.
Right. Yeah, I did really like Colossus too. I think he has to be someone that's really hard to write for, because
3 people, I believe, were responsible for bringing Colossus to life in this movie.
Wow, that's amazing. I thought he looked pretty good. I think from like a CG standpoint, he has to be really hard to do.
Yes.
I think from a voice acting standpoint, he has to be hard to do. Of like, how do you thread the line there of making him Russian without it making like nonsensical or like a parody or something? And I think they towed that line really, really well, and I think he was a perfect pairing with Negasonic Teenage Warhead, because the two of them are total opposites, but they're both out of patience with Deadpool.
Showing that he can literally burn his bridges whatever the direction it goes on.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like that they're still just like, "You could come be an X-Man." And he's like, "No, guys, come on. Like, your club of like do-gooding nerds? No. Jeez.
Yep.
Come on, man." I was, speaking of the X-Men, I was pretty happy that there was just enough X-Men stuff to be like, "Hey, this is all related," but like,
yeah,
it's not
this
an
is
X-Men
also
movie.
Obviously it's different now considering who owns what.
Right.
But at the time, this is 20th Century Fox, who own X-Men, who specifically have produced X-Men movies just to keep the license for X-Men, to make sure that it doesn't revert back to Marvel/Disney.
Right.
And the fact that it's even called out as well, like, again, self-aware Deadpool. He references, like, when after the highway sequence, Colossus is like, "We're going to take you back to the professor," and Deadpool literally says, "McAvoy or whatever what is his name?"
As soon as you asked the question, it let right on my brain. Jean-Luc Picard.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, Jean-Luc Picard.
Yep.
But he says, like, that one or that one, these timelines are so confusing. And it's like, that's a nice little touch, but then also when Negasonic opens the door and he's like, "I'm just going to wait out here. This is an awfully big house. And it's a shame that we only ever get to see 2 of you. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford another X-Men."
Yep. I also, one of my favorite funny bits from this movie was where Deadpool gets distracted by
Stewart or McAvoy.
Stewart, thank you. One of the most like famous actors on the planet, and both of us are too tired to remember Patrick Stewart's name.
Who? Just on topic for that point. What's the name of the actor who plays Commissioner Gordon in the Nolan Batman movies? The one who everybody forgets. He's the cop in Leon. He's the vampire in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Why are you doing this to me? I had like 3 hours sleep last night. I don't remember.
Because he is the best example of that exact thing, where he's an actor I know and adore, and I can never remember the dude's name.
It'll come to me when I'm just about to fall asleep tonight.
If you're listening to the main show and you hear him randomly shout out this actor's name, that's how you know.
Yeah. But I like that Colossus distracts Deadpool long enough for Francis to escape, and Deadpool snaps and starts attacking Colossus, and his like wiggly, wobbly
The T-Rex is the most feared of all the dinosaurs.
That one got me. Like that, just the like jelly bones of the like bloop, like, and then he's just like, "Well, my hands don't work anymore. I'm just gonna start kicking you. And it's like, all right, that's
You
the
ever
kind
heard
of
of the one-legged man in an ass kicking contest?
right. And it's like, that's the Deadpool I like, where it's just this like angry chihuahua that has no idea what he's doing, but he just like he's feeling the feelings, and he's like, I'm so angry at this dude. I don't care if he's metal or not. I'm just gonna start kicking him. And it's like, okay, that makes sense.
I feel sorry for your wife is a great line
Yep.
too.
The one that made me laugh out loud though was when um, Deadpool does the 127 hours thing and chops off his own,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, his own hand, and then when Colossus picks the hand up, it's flipping Colossus off, and I was like, okay, that's actually pretty good. And then the movie doesn't call it out until you realize at the same time that his hand is regrowing, but it's really tiny when he's
It's
like,
the baby hand.
yeah, when he's touching the blind lady's face, and it's
Blind
just,
Al, yes.
yeah, and it's like when at the same time he called it out for the first time is when I realized it's just this baby hand. I'm like, oh my god, that's really good. Like, you didn't call it out. It's probably been in the background for 5 minutes, but you didn't call it out until now. And then, of course, they go too far with the joke and they totally ruin it. But, like...
For you.
So my part is, we can't repeat the joke here because we're trying to...
We run a PG show.
Yeah, we're trying to keep this show on all the platforms. The next joke he makes isn't bad, but then when Ryan Reynolds takes over and does like go 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 go, that's not funny. Like, you've gone too far and you've just
the go 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 is a little bit iffy. Yes.
Yeah, to me that's like you already hit oil. You already struck oil. You just gotta stop digging, man. Like, but that's me being like a comedy curmudgeon, and that's not like a reflection of the movie overall.
I do also like the fact that he has got no problems taking digs at himself in this. You think Ryan Reynolds got this far in his acting ability is a great line.
That one's actually pretty good, yeah.
Also, when he's getting taken into the facility, it's the please don't make the super suit green or animated, which is just Chef's Kiss references.
Yep. Yeah. I think we haven't really talked about Ryan Reynolds too much. I think he does a really, really great job in this movie, because my assumption in this movie, or going into this movie, was it's all going to be Deadpool. It's all going to be the jokes that the internet has ruined, which was like Happy International Women's Day, which isn't funny anymore because the internet ruined that 8 years ago.
I still think that is a funny joke, though.
It's a funny joke. It's just like, I've heard it ever since the movie came out, of like, hey, man, you remember? And it's just like, yes, everyone has heard it. Anyways, I think he does such a great job in this movie. Like, the Ryan Reynolds that I remember is from Van Wilder, which is the first movie I saw him in.
Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place was the first thing I saw him in.
Right.
Same show with Nathan Fillion, by the way.
Right.
Two future internet stars in the making.
Right. But I think this movie does do a really good job at showing his range of when the Wade Wilson or Deadpool character kind of drops a little bit, like when he and Vanessa are falling in love, and they have that like throughout the years kind of montage.
Their performance together is so great. I think it's understated in this movie because of how much Deadpool is in it, but the Wade Wilson side of the character is so good. Like, the whole pizza boy stalker bit at the start, like when it does the first like time jump, where he's giving the guy crap about how much he bejazzles his jeans, and he's actually there for the pizza boy, to wave the pizza boy off, essentially stalking this girl. And then you get the whole thing with him and like reporting back to the girl that it's been dealt with, and she's like, "Yeah, you're my hero." Like, nope,
don't like that. Nope.
No.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna go there. And then that's when he goes back to the bar and meets Vanessa for the first time, and their whole whose life is worse shtick
Mm-hmm.
is kind of incredibly charming.
Yeah, it's this interesting kind of fun one-upsmanship of like, no, my life was way worse. But I also like his performance too when he realizes that Ajax is going to continue to make his life miserable, and it's going to be way worse the more that Deadpool pushes, and that like simmering rage that he's pointing at Ajax throughout the rest of that is that like it's the one time in this movie that he shuts up, and just that look on his face is so good.
When he first mutates and gets the thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also great because he's like, yeah, my lips are sealed, and it's because he has a match in his mouth. The only thing that causes him to shut up is his escape plan.
It's also a good reference to the previous movie of My Lips Are Sealed. Yeah,
I should sew your mouth shut. I really wouldn't do that if I was you.
Yeah. I like that the match plan almost doesn't work, too. Like, you see it kind of fizzle and flicker out, and you're like, oh, that's a bummer. Whoops, nope, everything exploded. All right.
Great fight scene as well. The
That's
ashes
a cool fight
and
scene.
the fire is a really good fight scene.
And his friend in the experiment dies, potentially. So that's the one dude that's like, I want to go make pancakes for my family, and Deadpool's like, oh man, come on, we were having fun.
Yep.
You big jerk. Now you're making it real, dummy.
Yep. One person we haven't spoken about.
Okay.
2 people. Blind Owl is great, not given enough screen time as the completely done with this world kind of
also
person.
the like IKEA fan. I like them arguing about
they're pronouncing
IKEA.
it as well, so specifically Swedish, whichever it is.
Yeah,
Swedish.
Swedish.
Being so on the nose with the pronunciations is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
We kind of need to talk about Dopinder.
Dopinder's great, man.
Second best character in this movie, breakthrough wise.
I love your introduction to him, of him being pleasantly confused about Deadpool. Like, it's this guy with some swords and a bunch of guns, and like he's in the front seat. Whatever, he seems okay. He's wearing this costume. It's fine. But like, him taking the reins of his own love life later in the movie is
at
really...
the suggestion of Deadpool is probably a bad idea.
Yeah. I really like Colossus just hitting the nail on the head on that one of just like, bro, what, you can't, what are you, Depinder, come on, bro.
And Deadpool's in the front seat going, no, this is not what I said. Kill him.
That's right. I would never tell you to do that. Do it.
Show her your love in a natural way. Kidnap her.
That's right. Oh, man. Yeah, and just the, like, when you first hear the dude in the trunk and the whole car freezes, and Deadpool's like, hey, friend, what's doing?
That in the trunk?
What's going on? Yeah. That is...
He's great.
Yeah. He's really great. Speaking of fight scenes, I actually kind of liked the fight scene between, was it Angel Dust, is her character's name, and Colossus? Where Colossus for the first time is like, oh no, I might actually be in trouble. Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, well, he gets knocked out. That's great because I love the fact that that's like Colossus like takes the first hit, gets sent flying backwards. A Deadpool is shocked by this, understandably. It's Colossus.
Right.
And then he changes his mind and he's like, well, okay, you deal with her, and looks at Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who's got a finger up and is texting somebody.
That's a great shot.
And he's, okay, hold on, never mind. We'll just wait for you to finish your tweet or whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And the way Negasonic reveals the powers, like, like puts the finger down, just throws the phone away,
Mm-hmm.
and then runs forward. But the fact that the power burns off her normal
Yeah,
clothes,
it's
and you
very
get the
cool.
X-Men outfit underneath, is just so good.
Yep.
But yes, that's when Colossus takes over, and
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that Deadpool is like an older brother figure for Negasonic here, because
Mm-hmm.
like he frequently is pushing her out the way, saving her, stopping her from
Right.
getting shot, that kind of stuff. She pays it back in kind with the roller coaster ride on a a sheet of metal.
Well, and she gets some cool things happening too, where she pushes that van and smushes a bunch of dudes. Like she gets I like that there's a balance between, she's still in training, but
Yeah, she's still a rookie.
yeah, but she has good instincts. She knows what to do when, like, to get herself out of trouble or help the team out. So it's not just like she's getting saved left and right, which I appreciate.
Yeah, but yeah, the fight between Colossus and Angel it's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why you get Gina Carano, is because she can do these moves, because these are the things that she has been trained in doing.
Yep.
So it all comes naturally and instinctually to her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot easier for that kind of stuff.
Right. Right. I thought a lot of the ending, like, third act fight scene stuff was pretty interesting. I wasn't, and I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about Vanessa being put in that, like, oxygen pod thing. That seems a little bit like that's the place you put her to piss off Deadpool, but I'm still not sure. It just feels a little bit. It feels a little bit like we need to get her out of the way and just lock her down for 20 minutes while we fight.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah.
I will say I can't think of a worse torture than that chamber.
Oh my god, I watched this movie twice because I wanted to make sure that I watched it like 2 weeks ago, pretty immediately, and then I was like, I'm not gonna remember any of this movie when we go to talk about it. Let's watch it again. And
when he explains what that thing does, it's
in watching Ryan Reynolds struggling to breathe in that thing, like struggling to catch his breath. That's terrifying, man. Like that's just I fast forwarded through it on the second watch because I'm like, no, I don't like this. My brain doesn't like anything that I'm watching right now.
Yeah, and this is also a movie with like 3 or 4 montages as well, and that is one of them. The torture montage is one of them.
Yep.
The becoming Deadpool montage is one of them. I like the fact that his outfit is white, and then Blind Al is the one who says like, yeah, wear red so you don't see you bleed.
Right.
And the fact that that's a joke that gets brought up, where it's like, he's smart, he wore the brown pants.
Right.
Like, oh,
right.
They don't tell you the joke, they just hint at it, and it's a very nice little reference.
Right. Yeah, a movie that makes really good use of montages in kind of 2 or 3 different ways. I appreciate that out of this movie because I feel like if there's any movie that should have a bunch of montage, it's probably this one. And like a Fast Saga movie.
Yeah, probably right. I mean, even 80s action movies don't have this amount of montages.
That's
and
true.
They're right not to.
Right.
Because it's hard to pull off. It genuinely is.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, we talked a little bit about Ryan Reynolds' performance. One thing I want to call out specifically is how much actual heart this movie has.
I will give it that, yeah.
Like, because the joke is it's not a superhero movie, it's a love story. But it really kind of is. Like, and they choose a couple of moments, like Whose Life is Worse. Backward and Forwards is charming in all the right ways. But the one for me personally that I absolutely adore, that I think speaks worlds to this movie, is when he first finds out he has cancer. And Vanessa starts going into okay, what do we do? How do we do? My uncle had this cancer. We had all kinds of these treatments. And it fades her out. And Deadpool does the voiceover. And it's like, she's she's already thinking plan A through Z,
Mm-hmm.
whereas all I'm doing is I'm memorizing the details of her face,
Yeah.
and it's a long shot of her like sound down, just talking to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, it's such a good line and
Yep.
such a good shot and such a good moment.
This movie, I think one of its big strengths is genuinely finding a balance of that stuff. Like, it is a love movie, it is an action movie, it is a superhero movie, but none of that stuff, I think it earns so much of that stuff, and it all feels really balanced in a way that I don't think we get in a lot of superhero movies. It's usually just like, all right, it's going to be 2.5 hours of the coolest action scenes you've seen. There's a comic relief here. They're going to come in for about 2 minutes and say, like, whoa, you guys did what
Mhm.
now? And then someone's going to say, English, please, to a scientist, and then they're going to move on. Um, we usually don't get to see something that is well balanced, I think, and I think really strongly written. This movie feels like, and I think that's part of the reason why in comedies like this I get a little grumpy about runaway improv, is because so much of this movie is so strongly written, and the Ryan Reynolds stuff feels natural because I think he gets the character and he gets that Deadpool is good in small doses.
Yes.
And I think that this movie handles that really well. So I think I am surprised at how much I liked it, and I don't think I would go so far to say that I loved it, but
Yeah.
I was, like we talked about in the first part, I don't like Deadpool, and I think having this
He
movie,
walks a fine line in
yeah,
this.
and I think, in most superhero movies where they have a mask, so many times you could just see, like, all right, it's been 35 minutes since we've seen the actual actor's face. Time for them to pull off the mask and have a monologue. That never feels like that in this movie. It sort of feels like,
Mhm.
well, Wade's story needs to be told, because the bookends to this movie is, I need you to fix my face so
Yeah.
my fiance can still love me. And naturally he's going to be in and out of the suit. He's going to have the like messed up skin and not, and like it all kind of flows and feels natural, which I think is, not only for a superhero movie, but I think for an action movie, I think it's pretty impressive. And
Yeah. And they do a good job of like, it's not explicitly stated, but like he clearly has mental health issues. He is clearly broken on so many different levels by what he has been through to
right,
become who he is.
right,
He refers to himself as us at one point in the movie, and it's like,
mm-hmm.
okay, that's that. And then you got the knife in the brain thing where he starts seeing cartoon animals, which is, people were like, well, why is that happening? It happened. He has a knife in his brain.
Also,
That's
like,
why it's happening.
Deadpool would watch a lot of cartoons, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But like the range she puts on, like the whole scene when Ajax gets Vanessa and he ends up going back to the house
mm-hmm.
with Blind Alan and loses his mind in anger because he literally was there and then chickened out. And in the
right,
time it took him to chicken out and then get the nerve to go back and do it, that was it. It was
yep,
done. She was already gone at that point. And the pure rage when he's literally beating up everything in sight in
mm-hmm.
the apartment, it's such a good scene because it's like, yeah, I would be mad too. I would
right,
be this level of mad too.
yeah,
And like when the phone starts ringing, he's like, find it because I'm gonna get angry. It's like, you're
right,
going to get angry?
right, yeah, yeah. I came out of this movie. I don't know if this is a movie I would rewatch, but it's certainly not a movie that I hated watching. So it's kind of right in that middle of like, this was a solid movie. It's maybe not 100% for me just because of Deadpool, but it's a well-made, well-written, well-acted movie that it looked good and it was fun.
Yeah, and I will be honest, like that. I think the theme of this season is going to be what you can do with the budget, and does
Right.
smaller mean better?
Right.
Because there are opinions I have, which we will get to at the end of the season. I think this is such a tight movie, so well done, because here is a dribble of water of a check to make this movie.
Right. And they do a lot with it. I think there's way more in this movie than I really would have expected. Especially for like an entire CG character. Like they do a lot with a little. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Colossus never looks like doesn't belong.
Right. Yeah. All right, what are your final thoughts here for Deadpool?
I really like this movie a lot. And we haven't even touched on the fact that there are literally references to everything in every single shot. It feels like there is stuff going on. The coffee cup in the credits at the start, it says it's got a signature, a name on it of Rob R. Rob Liefeld is the creator of Deadpool. That's a reference.
Yeah.
The pizza box says Feige's Best, which is a reference to Kevin Feige, who runs the MCU at this time, not even associated with this movie. But unless you're looking for them, unless you're specifically frame by framing them, they never call attention to any of it. And I like the fact that they never call attention to any of it. The only time they do is when it's deliberately played as a fourth wall break for the joke.
Right.
A fourth wall break within a fourth wall break. What's that, like 16 walls? Is a good one.
Right.
Well, like you said, probably the best one is we all know what I can do with 12.
Right.
Like that's a great joke. It's a great fourth wall break, and it's a great callback to the intro action scene.
And you never see anyone look into the camera in film. So like there's an extra layer on that.
Yeah, and like the fact that I think, like you said, it's produced interestingly, where you could cut this movie up and make it a linear story and have the Wade Wilson stuff, then the highway scene, then the end. But I think by doing what they've done, they've started with action, but it's an action movie that's interspersed little bits of action throughout, where it's never like, here is the big sequence, except for maybe the end. But they use that to pause and tell a story, which you can't do that with any other character other than Deadpool.
Right.
Where he literally is like, how did we get here exactly? Well, to do that, I'm going to take you back 2 years. And that's what he does. Like, it's a very difficult thing to do. Because it feels like, all told, you're maybe... The Wade Wilson stuff is obviously time skippy because of everything that happens in that. But, like, the highway sequence is maybe 20, 30 minutes of footage that you see 4 or 5 different times. Like, and then the final sequence is the final sequence.
Right.
But them using that highway sequence to just be like, welcome to the chaos.
Right.
By the way, I'm going to put this cigarette lighter in somebody's mouth, which is just...
That's Deadpool, man.
the guy getting flung into the sign is one of my favorite things too, because they call back to that later too.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
that one's
no, he was there when I got here.
Right.
Is a great little one.
Yep.
Well, like, it's what is it? An hour and 34 minutes, I think, is the runtime of this.
That, yeah.
It is a 90-minute movie, and it feels like a 90-minute movie.
Yep.
But it books. It gets through so much stuff. And for someone who didn't expect anything from Deadpool, especially based off the last appearance of him in a movie, I cannot. Whatever it has led to, however you feel about 2 and 3, deserved is probably a bad word for it. But he aimed for it and he got it and he made it. And even if there was no other Deadpool movies, you can't help but credit Ryan Reynolds, TJ Miller, and everybody else, because this is the movie that they worked on for so long.
Right.
and they nailed it.
Yeah.
It is arguably the perfect Deadpool movie, and arguably one of the best superhero movies.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Even if you're like me and you don't like Deadpool, it's still like an impressive, sort of admirable thing. Let's talk ratings here. IMDb 8.0 out of 10 with 1.2 million ratings, which is probably the highest we've seen on any movie here on this entire show. Rotten Tomatoes, 85% on the tomato meter, I can speak, and 90% audience score. And on Letterboxd, 3.7 out of 5. Also, this is one of the special Letterboxd pages where the logo is different. The orange circle for Letterboxd is just Deadpool's face.
Oh, is it the mask logo or just his face?
Yeah,
okay.
It's pretty good. So, those all seem like really fair ratings. Like those are all kind of the Letterboxd one seems a little bit lower to me than expected. 3.7 out of 5 feels like a little bit lower.
Yeah, I mean, this is 4.5 for me, easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I might even say 4.5, 5 if I'm completely honest.
Right. It's just a solid Deadpool movie. Like,
how do they mix genres? Like we talk about this all the time with like video games. Like, well, yeah, it's a cooking-based castle Metroidvania with no combat.
It's a tower defense visual novel Metroidvania. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, again, I hate to jump back into this point, but he says it's a love story, and that's what it feels like.
Right.
It feels like a love story, and also a revenge story. But the revenge is because of the love. Like,
right.
It's, if you boil all of the milieu away, it's like, yeah, it kind of is just a love story between two people who are very messed up.
Right. And perfect for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're a talker too is a great line from Ajax.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Well, we got 2 more Deadpool movies after this. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
I want to say bye, but also shout out to Stan Lee for doing a DJ in a strip club cameo.
I did forget to mention that. His delivery on that stuff is perfect. It's so good.
Anyway, that's it. Bye-bye.